and that's probably a good topic to talk about today: immigration through marriage. In the typical case, you have an American citizen marrying a non-American. In immigration law, the non-American is called an alien. It's not someone from outer space. It's just not an American, not an American citizen. So an example would be if you or I were to travel to, oh, I don't know, some foreign country and meet someone that we want to get married to. We could come back to the United States and notify the government that we were engaged to this foreign national and ask the government to issue a fiancé visa. And that's a special visa. It's an immigrant visa for the foreign alien fiancé to come to the United States for the purpose of marrying a citizen, which ultimately would lead to permanent residency and then citizenship. The way a K visa works is the American citizen here in the United States would file for a K visa, and they'd have to prove some things. Obviously, they have to prove they're an American citizen. They have to prove they're engaged. They have to prove they're not a criminal, an immigration criminal. And they'd have to prove who the alien is so that USCIS, hey Robert, could make sure that the foreign citizen and the American citizen weren't habitual criminals or things of that nature. Once that stuff was established, there's one other thing: the American citizen has to establish an ability to support the intending immigrant. Once that's established, the consulate or embassy in the alien fiancé's home country would contact the alien in that country and say, an American has filed for an immigrant visa and that's ready for you. Why don't you come in and have an interview? The alien would then have to come in and prove some of the same or similar things as the American citizen had to prove. They would have to prove that they are the person who the American is engaged to, so to speak, provide ID. They would have to prove that they're not a criminal. That's usually done by a police clearance from the local police force. They would have to prove that they're not carrying any diseases. That's done by a medical examination with an immigration surgeon. And ultimately, then a fiancé visa or a K visa would be issued for that alien fiancé. If the alien fiancé had children and that had been listed on the original application, they would be issued K2 visas. And all of them could enter the United States with those as immigrants. That is, again, people that are moving here. They're going to marry this American citizen and become Americans. The alien fiancé then has 90 days to consummate the marriage. And they have to marry the sponsor. They can't just marry any American. They have to marry the person who sponsored the K visa. If the marriage is a success, then ultimately the alien can then adjust again. The citizen would file an I-130 on behalf of the spouse. That's a petition for alien relative. And now they're not just fiancé. This is actually a spouse of an American citizen. That would ultimately be reviewed for some of the same things. Ability to support, are these people criminals? Do they have any medical problems? And ultimately, if that was approved, the citizen would be able to adjust its application to adjust status. Hello, Barbara. Hello, John. Share it, okay? And then, I'm sorry, the alien would apply to adjust status and a green card would be issued. Now, a green card that you get through marriage is a conditional green card. A green card conveys an immigration status called permanent resident of the United States. When the green card is issued by marriage, through marriage, that's called conditional permanent residence. And the condition is that the marriage has to be bona fide. It can't be this typical green card marriage. The service does things to investigate, check on these people along the way through the marriage to make sure that they're actually behaving as married people, that they're moving in together, that they're commingling assets, that they've perhaps listed each other on workplace provided insurance policies as spouses. Obviously, the ultimate evidence of commingling is having a child together. That conditional status is 2 years. They have to stay married for 2 years, and there's a couple interviews during the process. If those all check out, at the end of 2 years, the alien spouse now can apply to have the conditions removed from the permanent residence, and they're just a regular permanent resident. A few years later, 3 to be exact, the alien can then adjust and become a citizen. So, any of you guys have any questions? I see a couple people in the room. Okay, so let's talk a little more about some of the pitfalls along the way. Those interviews of the couple that have got married and the alien spouses received conditional permanent residence, they usually have two or three, and they will bring the spouses in and sit them down. Hi, Sammy. And they will interview them. They'll say things like, "Where did you meet?" They may separate them where there's fraud suspected and ask the alien spouse, if she's a female, or if the citizen spouse is a male, they might say, "Well, what's your husband's phone number at work?" Or "What's your mother-in-law's phone number? What color are the walls in the bedroom?" And obviously, if there becomes significant difficulty in answering these questions, fraud will be suspected, and the conditional permanent residence can be canceled by the service. One thing that's really important, is kind of a trap for the unwary, is the 2-year rule. As I said earlier, the marriage has to stay together and be a bona fide marriage that passes immigration interviews for 2 years. And at the end of 2 years, the alien spouse can apply to have the conditions on their permanent residence removed. Okay, they just have to do 2 years. But you can't really wait till the 2 years are completely over to file to have those conditions are removed. At 2 years and 1 day, the conditional status will expire and the alien will have no status, and in fact will be accruing unlawful presence. So you want to have your application to remove conditions in well in advance of the 2-year date, so that it's adjudicated and that there's a smooth transition from conditional permanent resident to regular permanent resident. And the regulations provide, I believe it's 90 days before the 2-year date, the alien spouse can apply to have her conditions or his conditions removed. If you submit it before 90 days, they'll send it back and say, "Wait till 90 days. Hey, Joe. Hey, Eric." But if you submit it too late, they may send it back and say, "Your spouse is out of status and you have to start the process over again." So you really do want to pretty scrupulously observe that 90-day rule, in the sense that you don't want your alien spouse to go out of status and have to repeat it. Now, right now, the service is kind of overloaded. We have seen more than a few spouses do the 2 years, file their condition or application to remove conditions 90 days early, and instead of getting a unconditional green card back from the service, what they're getting is an extension of their conditional permanent resident status for another year, while the service digests all the work it's being put through. That's kind of frustrating for the alien. It's certainly frustrating for us. We have little or no control over that in an immigration office, because they're allowed to do that. It's the law. The flip side of that is the time toward when that alien can file for naturalization and become a citizen is still ticking. So they don't lose the time in. It's just they become an unconditional permanent resident later rather than sooner. Another interesting thing is where, with the 2-year rule, is where the marriage breaks down, where people get into it with all the best intentions, where it is in fact a bona fide marriage. These people are madly in love, and for one reason or another, the marriage doesn't last 2 years. And that could be for a variety of reasons. Domestic discord, abuse. One of the spouses could get on drugs, fall in love with someone else. How marriages break up is beyond immigration law, but they do. And the rule is that where the alien spouse got into a bona fide marriage and has demonstrated that, and then it broke up, even if the spouse has fault in it breaking up, I mean, again, it's everybody at fault in a situation like that, the alien can self-petition and, for example, say, "Look, I got into this thing with the best of intentions. I can't do the 2 years because I'm subject to domestic abuse." We would never want someone to stay in an abusive, dangerous, and even potentially lethal situation just to get a green card. And that's all part of the Violence Against Women Act. And as that affected the 2-year requirement, there is now an exception for domestic violence and domestic discord. So that's the 2-year rule in the interview process. Anybody have any questions? Hey, Sean, thanks for tuning in. Well, it's funny because there's a lot of people in yesterday. We had a talk about different things, and it was pretty popular, and I got a lot of interest after the show. Actually, it was on Thursday, and I figured I'd go live again. Some people had asked me to. That's exactly right, Sammy. Sammy's asking if I mean the aliens in Area 51. That's excellent. No, I don't. Before you came on, I was talking about how funny it is that word is used. They just mean anybody not from America. Well, frankly, anybody who's not a citizen is an alien. Now, the people in Area 51 would be aliens under immigration law, but it's not that kind of thing. They mean someone who's just not an American citizen. So Canadians are aliens, Israelis are aliens. Anybody who's not an American citizen would be an alien, and it's kind of confusing, and sometimes even it feels insulting to the alien to be called an alien because of just that stigma you pointed out. So thank you for your question, Sammy. All right, so marriage fraud, how do they catch it? Well, obviously, these people don't know each other. They're not living together. They don't know anything about each other. More importantly, when they're subjected to interviews, it becomes obvious that they feel caught. I've had not many clients attempt to do this, and it's pretty hard to get that past even me. If you've seen enough of these, you know how it goes. And where that's been the case and where I believe that was the case, I've actually withdrawn from representation. Sammy's asking, what's marriage fraud? All right, so marriage fraud is a fake marriage between an alien and an American citizen for the sole purpose of getting a green card. It's a fraudulent marriage. It's not a marriage in the sense that we understand the word to mean people in love and intending to set up a home and live together and have children. Where the marriage really serves no purpose and was entered into for no purpose other than to get the alien spouse a green card, that's called a fraudulent marriage. And the government, again, I don't know if you were here for it, does some interviews of the spouses and reviews different things. For example, at the very beginning of a marriage filing, when the citizen spouse files to notify the government that the alien spouse is now married to an American citizen, they have to submit what's called evidence of bona fide marriage. And that's things like, again, a leased or property ownership records together, birth certificates of children born in the marriage, perhaps being listed as an extra driver on each spouse on the other's car, or as beneficiaries of life insurance policies, or even listing someone as a spouse on your workplace provided health insurance. Those are all things that tend to indicate that the marriage is real. In the fraudulent marriages, they rarely go through that stuff because in many cases the fraudulent marriages involve a little money changing hands, and who wants to go buying that stuff when it cuts down on the profit that you make on doing this fraud. And the service is very good at catching those. The interviews, and it's a very serious crime, both for the alien and the American citizen. The alien, if an alien who engages in fraud or misrepresentation to the service, is subject to a lifetime ban from the United States. And that would normally be imposed after they'd done some jail time and paid a rather lengthy or rather serious fine. I discourage it. But thank you for your question. That's a good question. A lot of people don't understand that. So, another thing that the citizen spouse has to do is demonstrate the financial ability. Okay, so Robert's asking, how do you attain dual citizen status? It's a good question. When permanent residents naturalize and become American citizens, they have to renounce their allegiance to, I think they call it, any foreign prince or potentate. So as you become an American from alien status, you have to renounce whatever citizenship you have. The question is what if you have it by birth, like I do, and then become the citizen of another country in the process, and particularly another country that doesn't require you to renounce your United States citizenship? That would be a dual citizen. So, for example, if I were to start spending enormous amounts of time in England and I was very wealthy and had businesses and a home there, you could do an economic immigration to England and have a passport issued, and you'd be a citizen of England and of the United States. That's the most common way of dual citizenship. There are lots of people. I know Israel has a right of citizenship for people that they determine fit Jewish. Sammy, do you know anything about that? I know that it's not very difficult for people who can establish their Jewish origin to be citizens of Israel. So there's lots of American citizens who are also citizens of Israel. And that's because it's it's pretty much, I believe, and I don't know, I don't do Israeli immigration, but I understand that, and that's a very common dual citizenship. Other common dual citizenships, again, English-speaking countries like England. We see some people who are dual citizens of Nigeria. Okay. Sammy's saying that he's heard that you automatically have dual citizenship when your parents are from certain. Let me see. I can't get that thing. Well, I can't read it. Send it in two bubbles because it's getting cut off, Sammy. But yeah, that's how dual citizenship. Was that helpful, Robert? All right. Well, moving on. That's kind of the nutshell on immigration through marriage. Again, the kids come along. So there's that period where you're a fiancé. You enter the United States for a period of 90 days to marriage, or to marry the citizen that sponsored you to come in and marry them. You have to marry that citizen, and you have to do it within 90 days, or you have to go home. You become illegal. If you do it, then you can adjust and become a conditional permanent resident. The marriage is good and bona fide, and you survive the interviews, which most people do. After 2 years, the conditions on your residence can be removed, and then 3 years after that, you become a citizen. I'm glad that was helpful, Robert. There were all these people that asked me to go live today. I'm not kidding. And I was trying to answer some questions. There was a couple guys from Iran, students and stuff like that. All right, well, I want to recap because an important basic concept about immigration that everybody's got to understand. Right, Sammy, no. Sammy's saying he's heard that you automatically have dual citizenship when your parents are from certain countries. I wouldn't know about that. I do know that when you become an American citizen, when you become naturalized as an adult, the oath requires that you renounce all foreign citizenships. And I know that there are people running around in the world who have come here and been naturalized, and these are Middle Eastern countries. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. That's really interesting, Sammy. Remind me to talk about that. But they come here and they become naturalized Americans, and as part of that ceremony, renounce their citizenship, but they're still in possession of a valid passport from, for example, Iran. And Iran doesn't know that they have renounced their Iranian citizenship. They've only renounced it before the United States. And in many cases, if that leaks and the government of Iran gets wise to the fact that their national has been nationalized here and had to have renounced his Iranian citizenship as part of that process, these native-born Iranians carrying Iranian passports can be arrested and punished there as illegal aliens. They were very interesting. Now, to your point, Sammy, you're talking about how people obtain citizenship. And when you're talking about how people obtain citizenship in relation to aliens, that's through the process of naturalization. And we talked about how naturalization can result from a marriage that's bona fide, results in a conditional permanent residence, the conditions are removed, and the alien waits another 3 years and applies for naturalization. And of course, during that, they have to demonstrate, read, write, and speak the English language, civics, history, know who our presidents are, and a number of other things. Other people don't do that. I mean, I didn't get citizenship through naturalization. I got citizenship through two things: being born here and having parents that are American citizens. As of right now, the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is read as conveying citizenship on all persons born in the United States. And we've always had right of blood, so if either parent is a U.S. citizen, the child is automatically a U.S. citizen. And this kind of mirrors ancient Roman civil law. They had what were called jus solis and jus sanguinis citizenship, right of soil and right of blood. That's not why we have it. Up until the 14th Amendment, it was primarily a right of blood rule here for natural citizenship, that is, being born an American. You had to have an American parent. If you had no American parents, we didn't care where you were born. After the 14th Amendment, there was a problem. We had just freed all these slaves. They did not have a blood lineage, and that had to be done in order to give them citizenship. Hey, Brad. Hey, Jenny. So that's the rule about how you get citizenship, by being born in the United States or being born to American parents, or at least one American parent. Does that help you, Sammy? Oh, I don't. Sammy's asking if he's automatically a citizen of Ukraine because he's from there. I don't know. I don't know Ukrainian law. I barely know American law. So, but that's a good question. You might want to maybe even check the website of the Ukrainian embassy. They probably would be able to tell you. I mean, you never renounced your citizenship anywhere. You were a kid, so you wouldn't have had a formal naturalization. You would have been naturalized as part of your parents, I think. So, yeah, I mean, you probably have both. Anybody have any questions? It's amazing. People asked me to go on live. There was like half a dozen people that had immigration questions. I said, just catch me on live tonight. And you guys showed up, which I thank you. Oh, all right. Sammy's got another question. What does it have to do with the parent, though? Because I thought that you're automatic citizens once you got cut off again, Sam. You want to send that in two bubbles? All right, well, while Sammy's doing that, let me recap. The first thing I was talking about was the classifications of people being admitted to the United States. Everyone who enters the United States lawfully with the permission of the government is admitted. Well, everybody who's admitted to the United States is admitted as either an immigrant or a non-immigrant. And people who are admitted as immigrants are being admitted into the United States for the purpose of becoming United States citizens. People who are admitted as non-immigrants are admitted for a temporary purpose. Visit the Grand Canyon, get a medical procedure, attend school. Student visa is a very common non-immigrant visa. Where immigrants are moving here to become Americans. Okay, so Sammy's asking that I thought you became an automatic citizen once you were born in the U.S. Yeah, that's true. Of course, that would be right of soil. If you're born on American soil, and that could even be a military base abroad, that makes you a citizen. Similarly, if you're not born on American soil, but at least one of your parents is a citizen of the United States, then it's by right of blood. That's the right of soil being jus solis, and right of blood being jus sanguinis in Roman civil law. Well, again, I'm Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group. My practice focuses on humanitarian and family-based immigration. Hey, Elena, thanks for checking in. The firm's Allegheny Immigration Group. The phone number is 412-586-4131. The website's AlleghenyImmigration.com. I'm going to end this live in a couple seconds if nobody has any questions. But you can always send me a text or even a Facebook question. I'll be happy to answer those after the live and when I pick them up. And I'll talk to y'all probably next Thursday. I'm going to do another live. Thank you all for coming. Elena, I'm sorry you came in at the end. But I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you very much. All right, bye-bye.